Most people think the minimum payment on a credit card bill is a helpful safety feature, but it is actually one of the most expensive traps in personal finance. The minimum payment looks small, calm, and manageable. It makes a large balance feel less scary because the bank is basically saying, "Do not worry, just pay this little amount and you are fine." But that is exactly why it is dangerous. The minimum payment is not designed to help you get out of debt quickly. It is designed to keep your account current while allowing interest to keep growing in the background. If you have ever opened your credit card statement, seen a balance you did not love, and then felt relieved because the minimum payment was only $30, $50, or $100, you need to understand what is really happening. The bank is not forgiving the rest of the balance. The bank is not giving you a discount. The bank is not saying the purchase was affordable. The bank is simply letting you delay the real cost. And delay is where credit card debt becomes powerful. A credit card is not dangerous because you swipe it. A credit card becomes dangerous when you carry a balance and let interest turn yesterday's spending into tomorrow's problem. The minimum payment is the doorway into that cycle. It keeps you from being late, which matters, but it does not protect you from interest. It may protect your payment history, but it does not protect your money. This is where many people get confused. They think paying the minimum means they are handling the bill responsibly, because technically they are paying on time. And yes, paying at least the minimum is better than missing a payment. A missed payment can lead to late fees, penalty APRs, credit score damage, and stress. But paying only the minimum is not the same as being in control. It is the lowest possible action the bank will accept before calling the account delinquent. That is a very low bar. If your financial strategy is built around the lowest payment allowed, the credit card company is setting the rules for your life. The real question is not, what is the minimum I can pay? The real question is, what will it cost me if I do not pay this off? That is the question banks do not want you to ask deeply. Because once you understand the math, the minimum payment stops looking convenient and starts looking expensive. Imagine you have a credit card balance of $3,000. The minimum payment might be around 1% to 3% of the balance, plus interest and fees depending on the issuer. So maybe the statement tells you that your minimum payment is $90. $90 feels manageable. You can pay it and move on with your month. But if your APR is 25%, a large part of that payment may be going toward interest, not toward the actual things you bought. You might pay $90 and feel like you made progress, but the balance barely moves. Next month, interest gets added again. Then you pay another small amount. Then interest gets added again. This is why credit card debt can feel like walking on a treadmill. You are moving, you are making payments, you are trying, but the balance seems stubborn because the interest is working against you every single day. And the smaller your payment, the more time interest has to do its job. Time is the secret weapon of credit card companies. The longer you carry the balance, the more profitable you become to them. Rewards points, cashback, travel miles, welcome bonuses, and fancy card designs are the front door. Interest is the back end of the business. If you earn 2% cash back on a purchase, but then pay 25% APR because you carry the balance, you did not win. You lost money while feeling rewarded. That is the emotional trick. The card gives you a small reward immediately, but the debt charges you slowly. Humans are very sensitive to immediate rewards and very bad at feeling future costs. A minimum payment takes advantage of that weakness because it makes the future cost feel far away. You buy something today, you pay a small amount next month, and the pain gets spread out so thinly that you may not notice how much you are actually losing. This is why people can carry credit card debt for years without fully realizing how much money has disappeared into interest. The purchases may be long gone, the vacation is over, the clothes are old, the dinner was forgotten, the emergency already happened, but the balance remains and interest keeps charging rent on your past decisions. That is the part no one likes to talk about. Credit card debt is not just a number. It is your future income already being claimed by yesterday's spending. Every month you carry a balance, part of your next paycheck is already spoken for before you even receive it. That limits your choices. It makes saving harder. It makes investing harder. It makes travel harder. It makes emergencies more stressful. And the worst part is that minimum payments can make the situation feel normal. Once you get used to paying only the minimum, your brain starts treating the balance as a permanent bill instead of a problem to eliminate. You stop asking, "How do I pay this off?" You start asking, "Can I afford the monthly payment?" That shift is dangerous because it turns debt into a lifestyle. This is exactly how people end up financing ordinary life at credit card interest rates. Groceries, gas, subscriptions, takeout, small purchases, and random online orders start living on the card. The bill comes, the minimum payment looks doable, and the cycle continues. But the balance is not standing still. It grows quietly whenever new purchases are added, faster than old debt is paid down. And because the minimum payment is often calculated as a percentage of the balance, it can adjust just enough to keep the account alive without forcing a real payoff plan. That is why you need your own rules. The bank's minimum payment is not your plan. It is their plan. Your plan should be based on freedom, not survival. The first rule is simple. If you can, pay the full statement balance every month. Not the minimum. Not a random amount that feels comfortable. The full statement balance. That is the amount that usually allows you to avoid interest when paid by the due date. This is the cleanest way to use a credit card. You get convenience, protection, rewards, and credit history without giving the bank interest. But if you already have a balance and cannot pay it off immediately, the next best move is to stop treating the minimum as acceptable. Pay more than the minimum every time. Even a little more helps, but the real goal is to create a payoff number that actually attacks the principal. If the minimum is $80 and you can pay $200, pay $200. If you can pay $500, pay $500. If you receive extra income, do not let it disappear into lifestyle upgrades while credit card interest is draining you. Send it to the debt. Credit card debt is an emergency because the interest rate is usually high enough to erase progress elsewhere. It often makes no sense to chase tiny savings rates, small rewards, or complicated point strategies while carrying high-interest credit card debt. The best return on your money may be eliminating the interest you are paying. Paying off a card with a 25% APR is like escaping a 25% guaranteed drag on your financial life. That is powerful. Another rule is to stop using the card while paying it down, unless you are absolutely sure you can pay new charges in full. Many people make the mistake of paying extra toward the balance and then continuing to spend on the same card. They feel like they are making progress, but new charges keep refilling the hole. This creates frustration because the balance never drops the way it should. If you are serious about getting out, you may need to pause spending on that card and use a debit card or cash for a while. That is not a moral failure, that is a control system. Sometimes the smartest credit card strategy is to stop using the credit card until you are back in control. You can still keep the account open if it helps your credit profile, but you do not need to keep feeding the balance. The second rule is to know your APR. Not vaguely, actually know it. Many people know their rewards rate better than their interest rate, which is backwards. They can tell you a card earns 3% on dining or 5% on rotating categories, but they have no idea the card charges 22%, 26%, or even more if they carry a balance. That is like knowing the color of the fire while ignoring the heat. Your APR matters because it tells you how aggressive you need to be. The higher the APR, the more urgent the payoff. If you have multiple cards with balances, you can choose between the avalanche method and the snowball method. The avalanche method means paying minimums on everything and putting extra money toward the card with the highest interest rate first. This usually saves the most money mathematically. The snowball method means paying minimums on everything and putting extra money toward the smallest balance first. This can give you faster emotional wins and motivation. The best method is the one you will actually follow, but do not confuse motivation with avoidance. If one card has a brutally high APR, you need to respect that. The third rule is to stop letting the minimum payment define affordability. A purchase is not affordable because the monthly minimum payment is small. A purchase is affordable when you can pay for it without creating interest, stress, or damage to your goals. This matters especially with large purchases. Furniture, electronics, vacations, holiday shopping, car repairs, medical bills, and emergency travel can all become credit card balances that linger for months or years. Sometimes life happens, and you use the card because you have no better option. But be honest about the difference between an emergency and a lifestyle choice. If the purchase was not necessary and you cannot pay it off quickly, the minimum payment is not making it affordable. It is making it expensive in slow motion. The fourth rule is to read the statement warning box. Credit card statements often show how long it will take to pay off your balance if you only make minimum payments, and how much you will pay in total. Most people ignore this section because it feels like boring fine print, but it is one of the most honest parts of the statement. It may show that a balance could take years to pay off with minimum payments. Years. That means the coffee, the clothes, the flight, the phone, the holiday gifts, or the random spending could follow you much longer than the joy lasted. That box is not there for decoration. It is a reality check. If the payoff timeline shocks you, good, let it wake you up. The fifth rule is to build a real emergency fund so your credit card is not your only backup plan. A credit limit can help in a crisis, but it is not the same as savings. Savings solve problems. Credit card debt postpones problems and adds interest. Even a small emergency fund can reduce the chance that every surprise becomes a balance. Start with a small goal if you have to. $500, $1,000, 1 month of basic expenses. The number can grow over time. The point is to create a buffer between life and high-interest debt. Without a buffer, the minimum payment trap becomes easier to fall into because every emergency turns into another balance, and every balance becomes another monthly payment, and every monthly payment reduces your ability to build the buffer you needed in the first place. That cycle is hard, but it can be broken. You break it by choosing a payoff plan that is stronger than the bank's minimum. You break it by reducing new charges. You break it by tracking your balances weekly. You break it by setting alerts before due dates. You break it by paying as soon as money arrives instead of waiting until the last possible day. You break it by refusing to treat available credit as available money. And you break it by understanding that the credit card company is not your enemy, but it is also not your financial coach. It offers tools based on its incentives. You need to use those tools based on yours. Their incentive is for you to borrow profitably. Your incentive is to stay free. Those are not the same thing. Once you understand that, the minimum payment becomes a warning sign, not a comfort blanket. It tells you the lowest amount required to avoid being late, but it should not tell you what your strategy is. Your strategy should be built around getting back to zero interest. Because zero interest is where credit cards become useful again. When you pay in full, the card works for you. When you carry a balance, you work for the card. That may sound harsh, but it is true. A credit card balance can quietly become a second rent payment, except you do not get a place to live from it. You get the memory of past spending and the pressure of future payments. This is why people with good incomes can still feel broke. It is not always because they do not earn enough. Sometimes it is because too much income is already committed to payments from the past. Minimum payments make that feel manageable until it becomes normal. And once it feels normal, it becomes harder to change. So if you have credit card debt right now, do not shame yourself. Shame does not pay balances. Clarity does. Start by writing down every card, every balance, every APR, every minimum payment, and every due date. Add up the total. Look at the number directly. Then choose a target payment that is higher than the minimum and realistic enough to repeat. Automate the minimum if you need to protect your payment history, but manually pay extra as soon as you can. If you get paid twice a month, pay the card twice a month. If you get a bonus, tax refund, side income, or cash gift, decide in advance how much will go to debt before your brain spends it elsewhere. If you are overwhelmed, focus on one card at a time. Progress creates energy. Every dollar of principal you remove is a dollar that cannot be charged interest next month. That is how momentum starts, and once the debt is gone, do not forget what the minimum payment taught you. Keep using the card only in a way that lets you pay in full. Keep your spending below your cash reality, not below your credit limit. Keep rewards in perspective, keep your due dates visible, keep your emergency fund growing, and most importantly, keep control. The credit card minimum payment is useful for one thing, avoiding a late payment when money is tight. But it is not a wealth strategy. It is not a debt payoff strategy. It is not a sign that everything is okay. It is the smallest possible move in a game where interest rewards delay. If you want to win with credit cards, do not ask how little you can pay. Ask how fast you can stop paying interest. That one question changes everything. The goal is not to impress the bank with activity. The goal is to use the bank's tools without becoming the bank's income stream. Pay on time, pay more than the minimum, pay in full whenever possible. And remember this, the minimum payment keeps the account alive, but a real payoff plan gets your life back.